Hey everybody, so this is Jake with Shattered Spectrum Studios. I was requested previously on shorts that I've posted to make a tutorial video into getting into game dev. So I'm coming at this from a lens of a person who's done pixel art and is just branching into game dev. So I wanted to make a tutorial and basically show the very basic first steps into getting started with something like this. So first things first, I want to briefly mention Godot as a game engine. It's a free open source software used by many popular games, but um, it's very popular for 2D games like I'll be talking about today and that our studio is currently making, though it can handle some 3D capabilities. For my pixel art, I do use an app on iPad called PixSquare. This I found to be pretty useful, and you'll see that it generates some pretty good pixel art when you put in the time to it. So to get started, you want to first open up Godot. You can see here that you can create a project. So you click on that, pick a name for your new project, and then you can look at the different compatibility settings. I usually use compatibility because this gives you them. And click on create here. It'll create your project. Jumping back to PixSquare for a minute, I like to use this tool because it allows you to create some pretty good pixel art and some good sprite sheets as well as some animations. It's got all the tools you really need. It's about $20. Definitely worth the price. One other thing I like about this is it can upscale images after you create them, which is very important when you import them into Godot, as we'll see later. Before you start importing sprite sheets or sprites to Godot, it is important to know what you're going to do before you start. Are you going to import specific PNGs or JPEGs for use to create animations in Godot? Are you going to import sprite sheets? Are you going to split those sprite sheets? It's important to figure out this information before you get started. If you are going to use sprite sheets, I like to use a tool called EasyGIF. Pulling it up here, you can see all you have to do, it's pretty easy, just import your sprite sheet, put some sizes, and it will split that up for you and create individual PNG. Getting back into Godot here, you can see we're in the 3D viewport. We need to send that over to the 2D viewport since we're going to be sending all of our sprite sheets in for a 2D game. Look here, you can create a node. You want to make this your main scene, so you're going to name this main. This is going to be the main scene of our game, and everything will kind of follow from this. We do want to go ahead and create a character now. So you choose character body 2D here. This is another node as a child of that main scene. And you can see this actually needs a couple more things alongside it. So what we're going to do is create a collision body. This kind of gives the structure to our character so that it can interact with the environment. We'll go ahead and put that in a little bit later. When you look here, we'll create another node. And this time we're going to go ahead and create an animated sprite 2D node. This is going to be where we plug in our sprite sheets or our PNG images, and it will be what animates our character. We'll dive into that a little bit later, but just looking a little more specifically, you choose sprite sheet here, new sprite sheet, and we want to create some animations. So we're going to keep it simple for this video. We're going to start off with an idle animation and work on importing some images here. So you see we go over here, drop down, create another animation. It'll be a run right animation. Okay, now that we have our idle and run right animations, we'll go ahead and import some images here. So we'll start with the idle animations. I've got a 6 image idle animation here. And to import that, you just highlight everything and bring it down into the file system here on the left. Bringing all that down. Oop, only one came down for some reason. Let me take a look at that. Okay, we'll get all these over here. So we'll just go ahead and bring all these individually since it doesn't seem to be working right now. But yeah, basically what you want to do is you want to bring each individual PNG image down into your file system here. We'll organize that later, but want to bring everything into Godot's file system so that we can use it in Godot. Once we have all these PNG images here, we'll see what to do with them. But as you can see, these are the individual sprites here. And once we get them into the file system, we'll go ahead and start animating. So bring that down here. Okay. So let's go ahead and get all these. Now that we've got them into the file system, we want to bring them over into our sprite frames and create some sprite frames. You do that, you see that they have now appeared in the viewfinder, in the viewport that I mean. So you can see here it is producing an animation. So at about 5 frames per second, that looks pretty good for the idle animation. So you can see it is animating there. Going back up to the collision shape, we can now fill this in now that we've got a PNG image. So let's go ahead. You can see I put that in. It's very small. So we'll touch on this later, but our image, because it was upscaled in pic square, is actually quite large. You can see up on the top there, it's quite large in terms of pixels. So we'll just start with this for now. We'll go ahead and fill the collision body to fit the sprite. And you can see over here on the side what I just clicked there. That will hide and unhide the sprite. Makes it a little bit easier when putting these collision bodies in. It helps you to kind of see where to put that exactly. So collision shape, we want to roughly go over top of the sprite here. That's pretty good. Move it down just a little bit, but that's pretty good. So looking here at the animated sprite, you can see it fits pretty well. That's going to help us interact with the environment and kind of go from there. So let me pull this down here just a touch more. You know, that's the perfection coming out a little bit. Looking pretty good though. So yeah, that's our idle animation. You can see it's all pretty well done together there. Let's see here. So zoom out a little bit and kind of get to see that a little bit better. Yeah, now that we moved it around a little bit, it's a little off. Let's fix that. Just blank out the image there. Move it a little bit more, and then we should be good. In general, in games, it's better to make your collision shape a little bit smaller than the sprite itself. That gives players a little bit of leeway in terms of their hit boxes and hit frames, and makes it a little bit more of a forgiving type of game. So now that we've got all of our idle animations in here, we can go ahead and put the run right animations in. So I've got about 8 frames here for the run right, and you can see it loaded up there. Collision shape is a little off, but that's something we can touch on in a future video. But for now, it's pretty good. So looking at the animation here, it looks pretty slow. So you can see it's working. Everything's doing what it should be, but it's pretty slow. So we're just going to go to the frames per second here, update that a little bit. So it was on 5. Let's try 10. See how that goes. Give that a shot. Okay, a little faster. Pretty good. Still seems a little bit slow to me. Let's try 12.5. See if that looks any better. That's pretty good. Okay, I like that. So that's what we'll stick with. So the next step is going to be to go up to our project settings here. We're going to create some input maps to control our character. So you just go to add a new action here. We're going to name them. So we'll start with run right. Get that typed in here. So run right, hit add. We'll go ahead and do a run left. And yep, run left. If I can type here, gotta figure out where the buttons on my keyboard are, you know. So run left, add that, and we'll go ahead and next create a jump. So get that added in there. So we've got the names for all of our actions here on the input map. The next thing we want to do is add buttons to them. So for run right, we'll go ahead and put the D on the keyboard. Typical run right. Go ahead and do a for the run left. And for jump, we'll go ahead and map that as spacebar. So that's pretty easy there. Pretty self-explanatory. We'll touch on how to implement that a little bit further, but that's kind of where we get started on this. The next step is the scary part. It's the programming. So this is what I struggle with the most. So go to your character body here. You're going to go ahead and hit attach script. And if you look, it's in GD script, which is Godot's programming language. But But what's important here is the template. The character body 2D template for movement is very important. Go ahead and click create on that. So as you can see here, it gave us a script template here already defined, which is super duper helpful. We'll kind of go into what each thing means, but I'm going to start here by just kind of looking over the script. You can see it extends character body 2D. That's the node type of our character. You can see a couple other things here, the speed, jump velocity. These are all things that can be tweaked, but just something to keep in mind. See our physics process, kind of looking through all of that. There's some gravity settings. There's a lot here. We'll kind of go into what each of them mean, but it's a lot to take in here at the start. But let's start here with the input. So this is here, it says input if action just pressed. You can see it says UI accept. This is going to basically be what we just put for our input maps. So let's start here with the jump. You can see we'll change that to jump, and that will handle our jump. Go down here to direction. This is going to handle our run right and run left. So we're going to go ahead and input this, run right and run left. So that is our input map, keying that in. And you can see we've got our velocity here that controls where we go and how fast we get there. And then an else statement just to see if we're not moving. So fairly simple for now. If we go into the 2D viewport here, you can see our character, hopefully ready to run soon. Okay, pull back here. All right, so the next step is to create something for him to run on. So go ahead and click create tile map layer as a node. You can see it created a node down there. We're going to go up here, create a new tile set. And we've got some settings in here to kind of look at. We can mess with those later, but basically creating a new tile set is going to allow us to create some ground for the player to walk on. There's some things that come along with that, but very basically that's the way to kind of create some basic ground for a test area to run around in. So you can see some tile map settings down here. Let me get over something that I like to use for the tile maps. It's just the Godot symbol. There's a lot you can do with it and avoid having to import too many other things. But just go to your tile set here. You pull over your Godot symbol into that tile set. It'll ask you if you want to create some tiles based on that. Just say yes. And then you can see here, it kind of splits that icon up into different things. So we're going to go ahead and just click on some blank space there and go ahead and create some ground with that. So you can see up here, the sprite is still huge. So if we were to create some ground, we have to create quite a bit of ground. So the next thing we want to do is downscale this sprite a little bit. This is where importing it at such a large size, it's a good idea because the more you downscale it, you're not going to lose resolution, which is very important. So while it's technically not pixel by pixel, the more you downscale it, you'll maintain some resolution there, which is huge for these pixel art games, which rely on every single pixel. So we'll get them downscaled. You just go to the scale over here under transform and the node. So just scaling them down. That's pretty good. So about 100 pixels wide or so. That's pretty good. We could go a little smaller if we wanted to, but we'll just stick there for the sake of the tutorial. So both animations look pretty good. Put them in idle. All right. So we're scaling down the collision shape here. Let's get it pretty close to where we want it. That's pretty good. We'll drag it over onto him. So let's see here. Before we do that, we actually want to center it in our canvas. So you see we're way up high right now. So what we want to do is go to position here and just target it at 0, 0. Coordinate 0, 0. That'll put us right in the middle. We'll do the same thing with our collision shape here. 0, 0. All right. Zoom out and get to where we need to be here. Okay, so you can see it's pretty good. I'll have to move the collision shape just a bit. So sometimes when you move this around, you run into some issues with overlap here. So this is a good time to go ahead and hide the animated sprite. That helps you to just move things around a little bit better. So that's pretty good. So we'll keep them there. All right, so back to the tile map layer. You can see we have a grid now for our tile map. This makes it a lot easier to place, and this is one of the really cool features about Godot, is you can place tile maps directly onto the ground here. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll use this tool here. So let's back up a little bit, give them a little more ground to walk on. So you just kind of drag and drop tile there. You can see I like using the Godot icon for this just because it creates some nice dark solid ground to walk on. So make it a little bit bigger. Oop, deleted it. Try it again. There we go. Got some ground for him to walk on. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now that we've got the tile map layer, we do need to give it some shape. So we do that by adding a child node with a collision body or collision shape 2D. This will give it, it'll signal to Godot that our collision shape, our player, needs to walk on the collision shape of the ground. So let's go ahead and drag that down there. All right, and when I roughly fit it to the ground, I do like to make the collision shape just a little bit smaller than the actual layer there itself, because it creates a little bit more of a depth effect, but you know, your mileage may vary. You kind of do whatever you feel is best. So that looks pretty good to start. So that'll give our Fox character some ground to walk on. All right, so you can see here we're getting an error message. It's saying this is our first bug. So it's saying here, I used the tile map layer directly. I did not create a static area 2D or static body 2D. So we need to go ahead and do that. So we'll go ahead and reparent both of these to the static body 2D, and that should get rid of our error message, but we see we've got another one here. That's just because it's not saved. So you need to bring that up there, make that a child of that, and error message resolved. We're good to go. So you can pull it up here and see, oh, not right. We don't have a camera setting. So it's kind of pulling us right over to the right here. Not a good camera angle. So we need to go into our character body 2D and create a character centered on that, or create a camera centered on that character. So you can see we do that with the camera 2D, zoom out, pretty good camera view there, kind of a wide angle, captures the whole field, which is exactly what we want. So let's go ahead and hit play. All right, so you see we're getting some movement here. That's great. So left and right movement, a little bit of jump. No animations yet, but we are getting some left and right movement. You see sinking in a little bit, so we'll have to adjust that collision shape 2D a little bit, bump them up a little ways there. But first, let's go into our script here and take a look at this, see if we can add some animations. And forgot to mention, when I was running right, running left, I was hitting keys and they were opposite. So this get axis function gets the negative and positive. So I put that in wrong. Negative is run left, positive is run right on that x-axis. So we'll go ahead and adjust that. All right, you see the velocity there was pretty good. Let's see if that fixed the problem. It did. So hitting that A key turns us left, the D key makes us go right. Awesome. So let's take a look here. This collision shape, we'll adjust that a little bit so we're not sinking into the ground quite as much. That should be pretty good. Alrighty, good to go. So let's go back to our script here. Let's see if we can mess around a little bit and get our animations working. So you see our animations here, idle and run right. We've got some, so first thing we want to do is link a variable to our animations. So we're going to go ahead and call that onReady. That's for a different tutorial, kind of going into what that means, but for now, just type in onReady variable animation equals, and we want to go directly to our node. So in our node tree, that is our animated sprite 2D. And you can name it whatever you want as long as it matches. But for now, we'll just keep it at the general name there, animated sprite 2D. And that gives us a variable for our animations. So coming down here, you can see this will be where we plug it in. So if direction, you can see if direction is greater than 1, or less than 1, I'm sorry, or greater than 1, yes, greater than 1, we'll go ahead and play our animation run right. Good. So that theoretically should make us run right if our direction is greater than 1, which it should be, it's positive on that x-axis. Okay. Else if our direction is less than 1, negative on the axis, we want to go ahead and play our animation run left. Now I didn't create an animation run left yet, so I'm going to go ahead and just comment that out. See run left, and we'll go ahead and hit pass. That should clear the error, so pass that. All right, and else we want to get our idle animation to play. So if we're not running right, we're not running left, then we should be idling, and our idle animation should play. So animation play idle. All right, good. So everything looks pretty good. Got our velocity where it needs to be. Spread that out a little bit, make it look a little cleaner. All right, so we should have a run right animation and a jump animation, or an idle animation. Let's see what happens. Okay, so nothing is happening. We're not running. We're hitting those keys and nothing is happening. So there is a bug somewhere in this code. So I kept this in the video to show that bugs are going to happen, and they're going to happen often. So let's look here at this velocity, see if that's the problem. Doesn't seem to be, but there's something else going on here. So we need to look through this code a little bit and see if we can figure out what's happening. So we'll keep this here. The first step is to plug in velocity under all of our animations. So make sure that we are running no matter what if we're under a running animation. So that should get us moving in the right direction. Let's see if that happens. No, it did not work. So something else is going on here. Let's go ahead and take a look. Yeah, so now we're not moving at all. A and D keys are getting hit, nothing's happening. So another bug. Let's go back in here and figure this out. This process is called debugging. It's very important. You're going to be doing it all the time if you're working on a game. So that's why I keep it in here to go over. So this is the first bug here. I put run left twice. We need run left and run right. We need to change these directions to 0. I put 1, so it is 0, positive or negative. So greater than 0, positive, less than 0, negative. Everything else looks pretty good. Look in here. Yes, so the reason our idle animation wasn't playing, it's under our else statement in the tree of the if and if else if. We need to take it out of there and put it under our else statement for the overarching if else statement. So if we put it there, that should do the trick. All right, let's see if that does it. And we want to make sure we reset this direction at the end of the statement here. So yep, that works. We're idling when we're supposed to be idling. We're moving when we're supposed to be moving. Of course, we don't have a run left animation. That's normal. We'll add that in later. And we're jumping when we're supposed to be jumping. So our movement seems to be working pretty well. That's great. And you can see I'm just highlighting these changes that we made before. And everything looks pretty good. So that's a good script for character movement.